जय जय सुरनायक जन सुखदायक प्रणत पार भगवंता गोदिज हितकारी जय सुरारी सिंधु सुता प्रिय कंता पालन सुर धरणी अद्भुत करणी मरम न जानई कोई जो सहज कृपाला दीन दयाला करऊ अनुग्रह सोई करऊ अनुग्रह सोई। जय जय अविनाशी सब घटवासी व्यापक परमानंदा अभिगत गोतीतम चरित पुनीतम माया रहित मुकुंदा जेहि लागी बिरागी अति अनुरागी विगत मोह मुनि वृंदा निशिबासर ध्यावहि गुण गण गावहि जयति सच्चिदानंदा जयति सच्चिदानंदा। जेहि सृष्टि उपाई त्रिविध बनाई संग सहाय न दूजा सो करऊ अघारी चिंता हमारी जानिय भगति न पूजा जो भव भय भंजन मुनि मन रंजन गंजन विपति बरूथा मन बच क्रम बानी छाड़ी सयानी सरन सकल सुर जूथा सरन सकल सुर जूथा सारद श्रुति शेषा ऋषय अशेषा जा कहूँ कोई न जाना जेहि दीन पियारे वेद पुकारे द्रवहु सो श्री भगवाना भवबारिधि मंदर सब विधि सुंदर गुण मंदिर सुख पुंजा मुनि सेठ सकल सुर परम भयातुर नमत नाथ पद कंजा नमत नाथ पद कंजा। जय जय अविनाशी सब घटवासी व्यापक परमानंदा अभिगत गोतीतम चरित पुनीतम माया रहित मुकुंदा जेहि लागी बिरागी अति अनुरागी विगत मोह मुनि वृंदा निशिबासर ध्यावहि गुण गण गावहि जयति सच्चिदानंदा जयति सच्चिदानंदा।
Yes.
Father, many times you know you've made a mistake and you know that it's worthy of repentance, but yet you can't repent.
You can't.
Like, it's not, you know you've done something wrong, but it's not coming like, like a genuine, from within. Like sometimes it comes very like a flood, but it doesn't come sometimes then.
Yes. It's a very important topic. So, if we refer to our metaphor of the temple of God or temple of Atma, temple of divine presence, now suppose you went to a temple, but the temple priest never cleans it up. You see? And when you ask them, why don't you clean up this temple? They say, but there's nothing to clean. It's all fine. I say, but I see dust, dirt everywhere. And he says or she says, I don't see anything. So, how does that happen that we don't see what needs to be cleaned up within ourselves, but others around us can see? Everybody can tell us what we need to clean up, you see, and we can tell them what they need to clean up. But for ourselves, we are not able to tell. So, the simple word for that is pride, which leads to what we call ego. You see, so our ego doesn't allow us to see these areas of block, areas of selfishness, areas of pride. You see? And so, how do we actually then come to repentance? We don't before, because we actually don't think anything is wrong. So even that has to come from grace somewhere. Even that is a gift of the Atma itself. When the Atma is shining bright in your heart, you see, when it's shining bright in your heart and you've surrendered yourself to it, there will be something that you find that is something which blocks your light. You see? And if you don't find that, you see, then life is trying to show it to you every day, but if you don't see that, then you come to satsang, and in one way or the other, in satsang you hear that about yourself, but you don't hear it for yourself. You say, this doesn't apply to me, it applies to everyone else. You see? That is when the slaps are needed from suffering, from misery. But if you are open, if you are vigilant to these things for ourselves, then there is no need for the slaps to come from life. From the leash doesn't have to be pulled. I have to use a lot of pet metaphors now. So the noticing and the acknowledging that which within us still operates in a selfish way, you see, is also a gift of grace. So what do we then do? We have to continue to pray and inquire. We have to continue to pray and inquire, and you'll find it strange maybe that the more you pray, the more foolish you will take yourself to be, because more and more will be shown to you, and this is a lifelong project. So till there is this even slightest egotism, your sensitivity will deepen more and more, that you will not want it in God's temple in your heart. You want your heart temple fully clean. You see? And so if this is not happening, if this process is not unfolding, then we need to pray more, we need to inquire more. So if the temple priest tells you that I don't need to clean this temple because this temple is the enlightened temple, it's the free temple, it never needs cleaning. You see? Then realize that you're going the Ravan way, you're following the voice of Ravan within yourself. Okay? And the minute you start to notice that I'm going with my mind, I'm going with my way rather than God's will, then you have returned back on track. So many times you're right that firstly you may not even see that there's a mistake. Secondly, if you see a mistake, you may feel like, oh no, it's nothing. It is like this only. This is how life is meant to be.
It's like exactly like this, Father, that I see that there is a mistake, and I want to repent, but it's not coming fully in my heart, and it's not feeling real. It's not feeling alive.
So the process of that is the process of reasoning, the process of rationalization. So we spoke about it a few satsangs back, where the mind gives us plenty of reasons to be proud and selfish. The mind gives us plenty of reasons to be proud and selfish. So it says, but this is how it is. This is how I'm supposed to be. But we have forgotten about God in those moments. So if you really check, is your heart with God or does it belong to the me? And if it belongs to God, then all this will really be brought to the surface and cleaned up. In that way, then you have fuel for your inquiry and you have fuel for your prayer. Who is the one that wants this particular thing this way? Who is the one that has to be like this? You see, if you can inquire, or if you notice for yourself that this selfishness is keeping you away from God, so the mistake or the error or the sin is just that which you use to separate yourself from God, isn't it? If no separation is there, then there is no sin. But you can't go with your mind's report card about it, because the mind will say nothing is there. You see? So how to do that? You will start to sense. All of us actually already have this, even from childhood, that we start to sense which way our Atma is guiding us. What is pleasing to our Atma is apparent to us if we bother to look. You see, the nature of the mind is to put blinders on us. We don't bother to look then. We just run, We just run. That's why I keep saying don't rush. Because that rushing thing soon gets us to a place where we're just like, how did I get here? How did I get so cold in my heart? How did I get so cold in my heart? And when we don't feel that warmth in our heart, you see, we don't, and it's not like a temperature warmth, you know what I mean? Just like there's a depth there. Like there's a depth there. It's not a dark, empty room. There's an unperceivable light there. There's a gravitation that pulls you inwards there. Isn't it? So if you're not noticing that for yourself, then you've probably most likely gone with Maya, you've gone with the other force field which is constantly tugging at you. Okay? So to continue with the dog metaphors, the pet metaphors, we are like dogs on two leashes. Both are calling us. Which way are we going? Yeah? So, and that push-pull is the nature of our life. When we learn to settle and follow the call from our heart within, the longing from within our heart, you see, then we are leading the true life. When we are just following the leash of the mind, then we are being egotistical and selfish and proud. Okay? So, all the elements that we speak about, whose will do you want? Most importantly, can you be empty of your will? Yeah? Completely. So allow yourself to be head empty and heart full. Because all the contentment, stability, joy, love, everything that we are looking for actually comes from there. It doesn't come from worldly objects. It doesn't come from the world. And if we continue to think it comes from the world, then we continue to be trapped in Maya. We cannot escape. See? So the realization of who you are also is a gift of the spirit, the Atma within.
So, Father, when we are repenting, sometimes it's very deep, and sometimes it's not feeling deep, but it's also repenting.
Yes.
So it's not supposed to be the same, no, always. Sorry.
Very good. So notice that the mind has two tricks, main tricks. One is it will tell you that you are hopeless, useless. You see, it will get you in complete despair and despondency. You see, the other is it will tell you that you are too good. There is nothing wrong. It's all fine. You see, there's nothing. You are that. You are enlightened. You are free. All is God's will. Nothing. There's nothing. You see? So we must be in the center of these two. We can't go to either despair, despondency, or go to pride and feeling that oh, it's all good, it's all good. You see? So it's a strange words, and I'll find better ones, but it's a joyful repentance. In the sense that what is it? It's like not bitter medicine, like somewhat like bitter medicine. It's bitter, but it's good for you, so you feel happy at least. That something is being fixed somewhere. So it's kind of like that.
Father, like supposing you did something and you felt shameful, and even that can be used in our repentance, no? Like even these, that only. Although there is shame, and yet there is repentance. It's very odd, no?
Yeah. So that, shame can sound like a strong word, but just the recognition of our silliness, our foolishness.
But Father, it's not always
is there anyone in this room, including this man who's talking, who can say that every moment today we followed God's will? Raise your hand. Anyone, including on the Zoom. Every moment today you followed God's will. Is it? I'm glad no hands went up because most likely you would be deluding yourself. So why not That why not is reason to pray deeper, inquire harder. That why not is what we need to work on. You see, there are some categories where we think that no, I have to do this personally only. Like relationships, I have to do personally only. God can't do them for me. You see, if I give it to God, He will mess it up. The classical idea of pride, that if I give my life to God, especially my relationship, He is going to mess it up. And imagine that if you actually hand it over to God, how pristine that would be, how innocent that would be. You'd be like an innocent child who doesn't hold grudges, who doesn't have grasping, knows the parents are taking care of everything, and the child is just offering unconditional love everywhere. So this is a simple way to check what to pray about, what to inquire into. What makes me go with my head instead of my heart? What makes me live here instead of here? What makes me take myself to be this bundle of flesh and blood? This meat basket which we take ourselves to be. So what is that? What is that which we take ourselves to be? And if we are taking ourselves to be the false one, then what brings us there? That is worth inquiring into and praying about. Yes, please. Yeah.
This, when you repent, Father, then you don't have to always be like weeping and crying. It's more like inward also. It can be not with any of these things.
So, if there's too much despair and despondency, that is also mind trick.
Sometimes it comes like that, repentance.
If it's natural, it's fine.
It happens
but
like that.
But it can't stay. Like, if you notice that you've been so foolish, you felt you were being with God, but actually you're being so selfish. Now you notice that. See? In your noticing, that itself is half the job done. You see? Then to bring it to God, how long can that despair last when you bring it to God? You see? He's the vacuum cleaner. It's just, you see, if you fully surrender, then you can't mope about it for days.
Father, I was
and if you're moping about it for days, means that you have taken that also personally and you're using it to activate your own specialness. You see? So we can't fall into the trap either way that there's nothing wrong. I am enlightened. You see? I am that only. You see, it's so clear because 7 months ago I sat in Satsang and I saw I am pure awareness. Like that kind of stupidity, or we say, okay, so what? I'm checking now. I am pure awareness only. Is it? I am pure awareness only. So, what's that? Nothing has happened to me. So this kind of stupidity again. And then rushing back into our selfishness. So using this, which is meant to be we'll call it a place momentarily, a place for our abidance, to use that as a band-aid, you see, and to help that with, use that for egoic reasons, is when our true insights become spiritual pride and spiritual excuses and spiritual excuses for bad behavior.
I was feeling all this like last few days that I'm not really repenting.
Yeah.
And now it's so, thank you for saying this, because I see if I take it to my heart, it doesn't survive. And yet I'm seeing stuff and it's not Yeah, I'm so grateful,
It's so
Father. Thank you.
beautiful because it's ever deepening. You see? It's ever deepening. And then there's a ever deepening also restlessness to be with Him. If you feel like you're distant from the Atma in your heart, like your insides feel dry. Your Antakarna, your nose feels like it is dried up. And then in God's light it feels replenished. You see, like the thirst, it's filled with now holy water. That which was just dried up within now gets replenished by the darshan, or at least the waiting in front of the altar of God. It gets replenished. You can't help that. You see, whether you like it or not, you will be replenished if you go within. It doesn't matter, like I was saying in last satsang, that what type of darshan we have, you see, whether insight comes, we see that we are awareness itself, whether deep love comes, whether so much compassion and kindness comes, whether you start singing His praises, you see, whether so many different ways of expressing our devotion and love can come as a gift from Him itself. But that is none of our business. You see, what comes as an outcome, we want to own that. Oh, I saw I am pure awareness. What did you do to see that? Anybody can sit and ask, who am I, who am I? What is it that you did to see that? The grace made you see it. You see? Yeah. So there's so much pride in today's world that I see who I am. Yeah? What did you do to see it? Yeah? So you must not fall into those traps that I love everyone so much. There's only love here. What did you do to create it? Okay? So we must not fall into those traps. So those are gifts, you see, from Him, from His light in our heart. Our job is to just remain inward facing towards Him using our prayer or inquiry. See? So if you're not inward facing at all, start with 10 minutes. If you're doing 10 minutes, make it half an hour. If you have half an hour, then make it half the day. If I'm going too fast, you get the idea. And if it's half the day, then make it your entire day. Nothing less than that is acceptable. Yeah? Yeah. So it's like saying that if I can live in Swarglok, I can live in heaven. So how much time can I spend in hell then? And why would you want to? नरक में क्यों जाना है? You see? So there's never a good reason to go there. You see? Ravan is sitting there throwing a major party. He's invited us, but it's only 10 minutes. You see? I'll have my party and I'll come back. You see? It doesn't work like that. Because you carry that. You see? It's the same way that you... Okay, I don't want to talk too much about this, but when you are sitting in God's light, there's an overflow into even our outer life, isn't it? It just overflows in many ways, like light, like love, like peace, like contentment. People will say there's something about you, how are you so peaceful? So it's all nothing we can take credit for, but it naturally overflows. The unperceivable light in our heart has the byproducts of the overflow, the spillover, as in your worldly life as well. But in the same way, that if you go be selfish, if you're prideful, then it shows. No? It shows in your outer life as well. It shows on your face. Not that we should ever make it about that. You see? Not that we should ever bother about what is showing up in our face, but really we cannot afford to, those who are not ignorant cannot afford to take these calls and say, no, I will just visit hell for some time and come back. There's never a time to be selfish. There is never a time to be ungodly. There's never a time to be false, in false identity. And there's never a good enough reason for it, no matter how enlightened you may think you are.
Just feel like sharing, Father, on this, what you just said. How many of you have lived in God's light? And I had a nice and dramatic lesson learned on that in Meera's whirling retreat almost a year and a half ago, and I was struggling to whirl. Kept falling, and then I think on day 2 she came and said, find that space inside you that doesn't move when everything is moving, and it was very insightful, and then it started working, and then I could never spin before, and it started happening, and it was a beautiful experience of surrender. And then the pride came, like, oh, you got it. And then I would go flying on the floor. So many times, and you were laughing too. But yeah, and I think last few months or so you've been emphasizing that grace part, which is even when living in God is happening, I could see that same feeling creeping in, like, oh, okay, all that effort is paying off. But then you flipped it a couple of months ago to say that it's only happening because of grace. So now whenever that happens, it's just like a gratitude that, oh, thank you. Where I want your help on is kind of what Amol's question was the other day as a parent. But there's a tendency, like I have explored it inside myself, of why do I have that tendency to claim credit for even these types of things? It's the answer that is clear is it's a lifelong conditioning of achievement. And it takes work to, and this type of pushing and guidance to break those knots. So what can I do as a parent when my son or daughter achieves something? Without being too satsangi or whatever you want to call it, like in a fake way. Yet feeling encouraged and encouraging them, but not creating that same conditioning that my parents innocently did for me. And I don't blame them. That's all they knew. So there's something to share on that.
So the beauty of this is that in the discipleship of the Atma is actually always communicating with us. And you may notice it like, again, not perceivable, but intuitively you'll notice it like the light is stronger, brighter when you're on the right track, or it is getting dimmer and disconnected and you're on the wrong track. So use that as a compass, and the more you use it, the more you'll get used to using that in that way, and that guides us every moment, because there are no easy answers. Otherwise there's no way to actually say that this is what we should do, this is what we shouldn't do. So you've highlighted the problem well, you've noticed the thing well, so now the solution has to come from the heart. So this is an example of what we are talking about, that if you don't feel like there's anything at all, then we are not growing, we are not deepening in our sadhana, we are not deepening in our insight, in our love for God. We have to surrender every morsel, every tiniest bit of pride, which is or my way, that we want to hold on to. So that is good. That's good. I used to say long back. Yeah. So I used to say long back that we must learn to live a God-directed life, not a God-assisted one. Everybody wants a God-assisted life, but true surrender is a God-directed life. Is He the director of your movement? Is He the director of your intention? Is He the director of your focus? If you allow Him to direct your life, then it takes a completely different quality. While it may seem like you continue to live on this planet, you're actually no longer living here. You're no longer living here. You just allow Him to move you, and all the fear about that surrender is completely unfounded. What stops us from surrendering? Because we have a fear that He may not do it my way. So I may lose my money, I may lose my relationship, I may lose my body. All of that is completely unfounded because all of that happens and comes by His will alone anyway. Every moment of our life, every heartbeat that we have is because of His will. And we are scared to hand over our life to Him. That is the strangeness of this thing. To Ishana at the back. That.
Father, the last few days there has been a distraction, and it's a like I noticed that I can go away from God when I swing on this side or this side.
Yeah.
So one is when I'm in when I'm in pain.
Yeah.
Like if something is let's say I don't have money, for example.
Yeah.
But this one, the last few days or a week, has been a pleasurable distraction.
Yeah.
And I don't want to come back to God.
Yeah.
So only when I come to Satsang, I remember God.
Yeah.
And how to stay with God when there's so much pleasure.
Yeah.
Like when you're in pain, it feels still easy to come to God.
Yeah.
But when you're in this pleasurable state, then I'm finding it very difficult.
Yeah. So we must remember Kabirji's word. Yeah.
Dukh mein sumit.
Exactly. Everyone prays in suffering. Nobody prays in happiness and contentment and joy. But if you were to, then why would suffering have to come?
Like now.
Huh?
Like now, the last few days, there has been swaying on that pleasurable side. So even then, pray. Yes.
Especially then pray. You see? Yeah. By now, all of us are very well aware because we've lived enough to see the roller coaster of life. Every high has a low. Every high has a low. So, if you can pray in the highs, then the lows don't have to come like that. Or they don't. When the lows come, they don't feel like lows because you are just cradled in God's love. So this can move in whichever way, and it doesn't feel like that we are on that roller coaster anymore. So our happiness, our joy, we are grateful for to God, saying thank you for giving me this in my life, and I know it's completely your grace that this happened. And then when we are sad, we are suffering, also we bring it to God and say, please help me, please have mercy on me. There's never any reason to oscillate away from Him, because He is the giver of all the blessings also, all the good things also. So the mind tries to say that if I go to God, like many of you children have this thing, I am not going to tell Father, because the Father will just, he'll just mess it up. He's just like, So what is happening when something is just avoiding being grounded? No? Something is just avoiding being grounded and still and stable, because we want to, that excitable energy makes us feel like we are winning, everything is good. You see, we can make life as a person work out. You see? And then what happens if we keep thinking that we are making life as a person work out, then we don't recognize that we are in Ravan mode. Because Ravan said, why do I need God, or why should I bow down to God? I'm good. I'm making this happen for myself. You see? What did God do for me? You see? So we must break out of the cycle. Like you said, we were talking about this a few weeks back, or I don't know, last week, but when we are finding this worldly material pleasure, then we are like that. And when we become even slightly sick, we become the most humble. So as there's a little bit of pain, then we become very humble. So this oscillation we have to break. Otherwise, this life is full of these ups and downs of pleasure and pain. That's classical. That's the classical psychology, classical everything, that is just fluctuating between the two ends of pleasure and pain. So if we fluctuate along with that, then our life is fully topsy-turvy. So we find a stability in God's presence, in God's love. And then the roller coaster doesn't seem like we are on it, we become a witness of that. You see, but when pleasure is there, we want to be like the one. You see, we want to be the experiencer. We think that we are the doer. We think we are the experiencer. We fall into every trap possible in the human condition when we think that things are working for us. So those who can remember God and remember to be grateful to God in those times, you see, then they will escape the clutches of Maya. They will escape the clutches of this oscillation. Yeah. Go ahead.
Father, this same thing that is giving pleasure now,
Yeah.
I'm very well aware that this has the potential to give me pain few months later, or maybe, it's coming. But still, knowing that, I want to indulge in this distraction.
Exactly.
And
all of us have this problem. So that's what gives us fuel for our inquiry. So you can ask yourself, who is the one who wants this? Who is the one who wants this? Who is that?
who's the one that wants
Wants that pleasure and not turn towards God?
the false one?
So false one equals suffering. If not now, then tomorrow, definitely tomorrow. But why can we not be with God when God is the light of this entire universe? Why can't we trust Him to keep us happy and joyful and peaceful? Yeah. Isn't it? So then that way we get off this treadmill of constantly seeking things outside. And for many years, and maybe in moments like this, it will ring true, but so many years I've talked about the fact that how Maya will make us feel like we are winning. Otherwise, nobody will be interested in playing. You see? So it has to first give us this idea that we are winning, or the possibility to remain like this is there, and then then the suffering comes. If it is good for us, it comes from God. If it is auspicious, it comes from God. If it is meant to be, it comes from God. Yeah? Antarmukhi Sadasukhi. Sadasukhi is, there's a queue now. So, that Sukhi, that always happy, always content, doesn't always feel like pleasure. Because pleasure sometimes has this excited quality about it. You see, it has this very excited sort of quality about it. It feels very addictive. It feels alluring. You see? So something, when we get a taste of that, it feels like we've tasted blood and we don't want to go back to the sattvic sort of shanti sort of contentment. You see? So, but on a lighter note, that's why we had satsang. We were having satsang once in 2 weeks. These kids used to come once in 2 weeks. But I realized that in the gap in 2 weeks, like what the change I would see in them in satsang, then that whole thing would be more or less discarded in 2 weeks. So we said we need to do it more often. So use this opportunity that you're here now. When you're here now, you can be lucid. You can be quiet. You can observe these things. Like you said, I know what's coming. Maybe it was not that apparent when you're not in satsang. So use that to just find that anchor of God's light now and not leave Him. Then you're not leaving satsang whether you left this room or not. Find His feet right now in satsang. This is your opportunity, and then don't leave Him. And when you do, because all of us do, the intention should be to never leave Him, but when we do, we just rush back quickly. You see? Are you noticing for yourself the rationalizations from the mind which prevent you from being with God? You see? If you notice that, then you know whether the serpent is lying. You see? Whether the serpent is lying. So if you've not noticed that, then it can still grab you. So use the opportunity of satsang also to notice the reasoning why something sounds sensible that I should leave God and be worldly. You see? What can make that rational or sensible is purely nonsense. But when we are in that mood, it can seem rational. It can seem like, just for now. So, just for today. God is not, and we can start speaking for God. God is not oppressive that way. He wants me to be happy. You see? Like that. So we can start rationalizing on His behalf. Is He telling you that? So if He's telling you that, then it's fine. So, and how can He tell you if you're not hearing the words? You see? You can sense the unperceived light, or at least you can sense the spillover, the overflow from that presence. All of us can. All of us know in our heart. All of us know.
Father, you say that what you do in sand is more important than what you do in sand. This is also sand.
Yes. But this is sand which looks like it's a mirage. So it looks like it is full of joy and pleasure. But it doesn't have to be a mirage. It doesn't have to be a mirage if you remember what I said about the males. You see, if you are grounded in God's presence, then everything is truly an oasis. There is no mirage. Whether outwardly it's a desert or outwardly whatever it may be. So it's quite simple. It's not easy, but it's quite simple. You have to turn to God at the quickest possible opportunity, and you have to stay there. And as you stay there, then you allow him to unfold your outer life. And just like he is the most loving parent, so why will he not want the child to be fully happy? You see? What has he invented pain and pleasure for? He invented them for us only to taste. So but when we are with him, then he will give them to us in the right quantity. When we want to grasp, you see, then I'm going to use another Aslan metaphor. So, you see, Aslan has no idea how much is eaten. So you can keep feeding him. You keep feeding him, he'll keep eating. You see? So as parents, we have to control. We have to say, for those who are confused, Aslan is the new baby pet dog we have adopted. And it's famous about golden retrievers that they have no stop switch when it comes to eating. So, but as parents, then we know that this much, a bowl full is enough or a handful is enough of something. You see, so in the same way, if God is our parent and He loves us more than any worldly parent ever could, then we have to trust His recipe for our life. Then we become for ourselves. This is why we don't turn. Because we feel like this I have to do for myself because I know exactly what I want. So that is when we follow our individual will over God's will. Okay? And we presume too much that, but if I remain like that, then He will not want me to have this or He will want me to have this. We can't presume these things. Okay? So notice these mind tricks, you see, which prevent you from being with God. To use this as an opportunity to trump the trump card of the mind. Because when these situations come, and hopefully they're not regular everyday situations. So we must use these as opportunities. If you have that awareness now, and I don't mean it as the pure awareness we speak of, but if you're noticing it now, that it can get you and you don't want to turn towards God, then use that as an opportunity that the mind has played a real conspiracy now, and how you deal with it. How you deal with it will help you to go deeper in the love for God. So use that as a great opportunity that you have now.
Father, it's such a switch the last 1 week or more, maybe 8-10 days. It's a different world, Father.
Yes.
Like in comparison to before that, it's not that I'm enjoying this. It is alluring, but it's also very tiring.
Yes.
I'm
Thank God for that. Thank God it's tiring, because if we continue to be worldly and not get tired, then we would not turn so easily. There are many of our brothers and sisters in the world who are living in a worldly way, but are very tired, but they keep finding motivation, all of these things, to tire themselves more and more, instead of looking for a deeper solution, which is to come into the discipleship of the Atma within. You see, so can you say that in the last 8-10 days you've been a disciple of the Atma?
No.
Not say. So then you have to cover up for the curriculum now. Before the backlog builds up too much. Because then what happens is that, worldly life is just like the myth of Sisyphus. No? You carry this rock up the hill thinking it's going to get you something, then you go to sleep, it comes back down, then you carry it back up. You see? So you want to escape that treadmill as quickly as possible and return to your true place, where it doesn't control your life, what is happening in the outer. You see? If we've handed our remote control over to something in the outer, that means that we have handed it away from whom? From God, from our true guide, our true teacher, who is the Sadguru presence within, the Atma within. So use this opportunity to transcend this. Notice the trick. You see? Notice it and say, I'm not going to fall for this. If you fall for it, then just return. When you notice, just return. Because it's that age-old story, and we must never believe that this time is going to be different. Since time immemorial, it is the same story. So, and again, I'm re-emphasizing this point that we must not be mental about either way. Yes, no, maybe. Not be mental about it. Allow God to unfold it. The younger ones in the Sangha, and it's natural in youth, that the propensity to rush is more at that age probably. That propensity to rush in. What is it? What is that old song? A wise man say only fools rush in. It's a very wise saying actually. Only fools rush in. So don't rush. If something is meant to be, then God has made it for you and it's not going anywhere. Why you have to rush? Something is meant to be, then who has gifted it to us? Why do we have to go grasping?
I'm not able to pray, Father.
Not able to. It will take a few days, because if you immerse yourself in that, it carries like an aftertaste, the worldliness. But at least you recognize that. Because what can also happen otherwise is that you can have the sense that I'm actually very good. You can have this sense. Then when you come to Satsang, you notice that the temperature feels a little different. And then you say, what is the right temperature? Where am I supposed to be? What is the? Then you can notice the contrast, and that which maybe earlier seeming like even an attack in some way can then seem like, oh, okay, that's what's happening.
It's very tiring, Father, because it's like you've not eaten sugar for a month, and then suddenly you have a bite of sugar, it hits you. And it's such a restless energy. I haven't felt like this in a long time, and it's so tiring. But I want to be in it. It's right.
So if you've eaten sugar, then also thank God for bringing that in your life, and then say that it's all your grace, whatever's happened, and it's all sorry if I allowed my personal doership to get a hold of this, allowed my own desire to get a hold of this. Now I surrender it to you, and I feel like I'm too weak to fully surrender it. But please help me to be able to come to the point of full trust in you. See, when are we not able to fully surrender? When we don't have full trust in God, which is the most absurd thing. Every breath. Right now we could fall into a zillion molecules if it was not God keeping us together. So that's the most strange thing, to not trust God fully. But that is what the ego literally means. That we go our way, my way. So that's a classical biblical story. The whole Bible has that story 100 times. Start right from the beginning. We lose our innocence when we decide for ourselves what way we want to go, what is right for us, what is wrong for us. And then we don't really want to hear. When we're in that mode, we don't really want to hear. We only want, because there's a fear somewhere, we only want approval or verification. We don't really want to hear anything so we are scared of that. So that's why we don't turn to God in our heart.
Father, when everything is going well, I can say big things.
Yeah.
But when I get my gallstone pain, when I get my, for example, when I get my gallstone pain,
yes, exactly.
it's
exactly. That's why I said that whole notion of when things seem to be going well according to the mind, then we get into this mode of it's all we feel like. What is that dialogue? कभी कभी तो लगता है अपन में भगवान है. So we get into that mode, but in the same show, then you know what happens. That उठो नहाओ पिटो सो जाओ. So we fluctuate between these two modes of sheer forced humility and sheer like invincibility. So instead of that, we should get into like a humble bowing down posture in the heart temple, in the heart altar. Just make that your permanent posture. Everything else will be fine.
Father, you'll have to help me with the question, but I noticed something. I feel like there are two types of trouble. Like one trouble, it comes from outside. It's possible, like I'm in the house and the maid is creating something, and I happen to be there, and I can't get out of that. Something. It's a bad example.
It's like something.
Yeah, something from the outside, and it's not in my control, but yet I am in it, and I happen to be in trouble like that. So, and then something could happen. I could get angry, or I could back answer. I could, whatever. I could say something, or not be kind, or and then I could say I ask for repentance, and that seems an easier way for me.
Yes.
But when I am seeing that I am myself getting into something, and that trouble is, I can't say God, I'm in trouble, because I feel like God will say, you fool, you are like in it because of yourself. You are in it because of yourself.
In it
like
because
you want to be in it. If you want, you don't be in it. Something like that, And then I feel that kind of trouble is different, and I find it very hard to ask for. I feel like difficult to ask for forgiveness for that. So, am I able to say?
No, it's very good because it can feel like that happened and I'm in some trouble. No?
Yeah.
Somebody put a false case against me, so then we can pray to God saying, "Oh, this is unwarranted." But on the other hand, in a way saying that if it was warranted only, I only went into it, dived into it, dove into it, then with what face can I go to God? You see, but that question with what face is pride. So that question with what face can I go to God is pride. It's like a child who's fallen on the floor. You see? The parent will pick the child up anyway.
Yeah.
You see, because the parent job is to love, is to be kind, is to be compassionate. But if the child doesn't say, you see, that I was saying, about my daughter, when she was very, very young, 1.5 years or something, she was walking around the house and I could see these red footsteps. And I was asking her, what's happening? I remember going behind her saying, what's going on? You got hurt on your foot? She's saying, it's not blood, it's tomato. After a year and a half. So she doesn't want to accept that fact that something could be wrong. She just feels like just in denial it will sort itself out. You see, because the dealing with the parent at that moment or dealing with that situation as it is at that moment may seem more difficult. You see? And as we grow older, then we also become proud and we say, oh, but then what will God say? But that's the classical story. I'm saying classical a lot today, so that's the classical story of the prodigal son, isn't it? That I left open-eyed. Now with what face can I go back to father? What will he say? He will say, get out from here. Yeah? The father is always welcoming him. So all these beautiful stories are there for us to look at our own behavior patterns and recognize ourselves in those characters.
Feels like it takes so much courage to turn, and I did try, and I feel, but it takes a lot, and the mind was saying that what is this God, and it'll try to make it completely and now you're saying it's pride. It is pride. How could I, behind all this is really like, how could I make the mistake like that, no?
So we will let's brush it on the carpet.
Yeah, I don't want to see it.
Nothing happens. Yeah. It is festering there. And because it festers there, that's what vasanas are, that's what conditions are. Those unresolved things that we just brushed under the carpet, they just keep festering within us, and then they reappear.
And I saw it like that, like how you're saying,
yes.
Day 1, day 2, day 3, I saw it like I don't want to see some stuff. Like I'm seeing what I don't want to, like it was like that.
Remember one thing, all of you, that if God doesn't seem important or relevant at this point, you are in Maya.
Yeah.
There is no two ways about it. See? If He is not seeming like the focus of your life, the center of your life, then you are in Maya. And you must find a way to retreat to your heart as fast as possible before Maya's claws get deeply embedded and then you suffer.
Father, we are so lucky that we come to Satsang and we can return like this.
Refuge for this. No?
We are so lucky.
And I'm also lucky because I get to hear these words as the Atma uses this body to speak. They're all for me also.
Father, we didn't have Satsang, then anything foolish in Maya, because it's so alluring, can take us how far? It's really got the capacity to take us so far. And we just snap out of like big stuff like it's peanuts. It's too much.
Very good. It's on His grace that He creates this for us. So the origin of the word sin, I feel like there's a lot of misunderstanding about it. Most likely I'm also misunderstanding. I'm not saying that my understanding is the correct one, but the origin of the word sin is a word called khata, in probably Hebrew, and then went to Arabic and then came to India as Urdu. So what does khata mean to us? Some of us from the north will at least know. Mistake, no? Mujhse kya khata ho gayi? Like usually in these romantic songs it's said like that. Mujhse ye kya khata ho gayi? So it's not like what sin have I committed? No, it sounds like there's a different texture to it, no? In Urdu and the way we use it. So it's just like that. What is it that makes me separate from you, God? That is the error, that is the khata, that is the sin. So somewhere it's become a lot more complicated now. It's become in the world a lot more complicated. But in that complication, we've just avoided looking at it. You see? Does it seem like a scary word? No? Like in many families, it's taboo to talk about death. You see? That's why also in much of spirituality is taboo to talk about sin. Like we are pure Atma itself. How can there be sin? Those notions like that. But to be egoic, to be separate, is the khata, is the error, is the sin. Okay? So whatever, and this answers Praharsh's question also, that we have a sense of this. So he is saying that between hunger and lust, what is the bigger sin? It seems like lust is the bigger sin. So whether if I'm on Swiggy, then that seems okay, but if I'm on a dating app, then that seems like a bigger sin. But I would not put it like that. I would put it in a simpler way, saying that you can check in your heart what seems to keep you more distant from God. And it's not necessary that either of those will. You see, you can order food. No real problem with that. You can be on a dating app. There's no real problem in that. But if your heart is showing you that that is creating a disconnect in your heart, if your heart is, the light in your heart is dimming, if the love that you're feeling, unconditional love, is not to be found, if you're feeling dried up in your Antakarna is not alive with the holy waters. You can, and I'm saying these words, even if they may seem a bit confusing to you, at least they get seeded and you start to notice for yourself, because this is the universal way in which we function. You see? So it's all right as long as you're operating from there. And be careful of just fooling yourself in these things. You see, because if you fool yourself, you only fool yourself. Like nothing else will change. You're not going to fool God, or you're not going to fool anything, your Atma, which is the only important thing. So stay with that and run your life from there. Just sitting at God's feet, dipping into the world, if at all. Not sitting in Maya's feet and dipping into God. And that dipping happens usually when we are in trouble. That seems to be the theme of today. That don't wait for trouble to come to find a way. That is your true home. Stay in your Gurukul, stay in the true home, and from there, whatever needs to be operated. Is it? And whatever pulls you back into that driving seat, then that is the kata, that is the sin, that is the error. Whatever pulls you back is auspicious, is the grace, is the Guru's love. Like that. So between this push-pull like that, the biggest trick, of course, of the mind is to convince you that it's from the heart. That is the biggest trick. But you can learn to spot for yourself. Are you rushing? Are you concluding? Are you just thinking that, or are you just being patient? See, that's maturity. As we are getting more and more patient, we become spiritually mature. If you just rush, then actually it doesn't matter. You could have had so many experiences, you could have had so much insight, but when it counts, it's all out the window. So we must not get into those modes. Just with that.
Like when you first told us that you are obedience was such a resistance.
Yeah.
That teaching us and deeply looking at obedience, and then you could see that what was sinful. I mean, with that not listening to God's guidance,
Yeah.
or not even knowing that there was such a thing. Like in a really active way.
Exactly.
And just blindly following something which you thought was freedom. I mean, that presented itself as freedom, which it wasn't. Then I also realized that, in the scriptures they mention certain values to follow, and as maybe we didn't understand them, but those values actually led you to move towards God, because they prepared like a ground. And because it became so oppressive at some moment where people just use it to oppress you, that you just want to revolt against it.
And it's a virtuous circle, so to speak. No? That you can't do this by yourself. Like if you look at the qualification, we already joked about this. Who can do all of this? Control your mind, control your senses, control this, control that. You see, then you already have to be enlightened to do all of that. So those are the prerequisites that, you see. So what gets missed in the interpretation a lot of times is the whole fact of who is holding your hand and guiding you step by step, that is the Atma. That is the Sadguru presence. And if you don't emphasize that, then all of it can seem too difficult. So yes, those are the prerequisites, but we have a loving guide who holds our hand step by step and brings us there. See? And he manifests first as grace in the form of outer teachers, and then as we keep deepening more and more and more, then his presence is so deeply felt in our heart, that he is the one who has been always taking care of me in spite of all the trouble I've gotten into or want to get into. What is the first thing you said? I wanted to say something about that.
Think about the obedience, because you made it so apparent to us that we were, that word wasn't such a bad word.
Exactly.
Disobedience.
I know that initially all these are very almost trigger words in Advaita, Vedanta, Satsang. No, you can't say obedience, you can't say sin, you can't say mercy on me, all these kind of things seem taboo to talk about, but really it's not like that. Like Nanaji has told us that we must live in God's will. Okay? Now, when we don't live in God's will we call that a virtue? No, we have to call it something. So you choose the word. Whether you call it an error, mistake, sin, you choose the word. It doesn't matter. The point is that we should not live like that.
Yeah, I remember that it used to just be a movie song, an old one. I say it in English, but I'm not Hindi. If you say it's night, I'll say it's night. If you say, Agar tum kaho raat, tu raat kahingi. It's a very beautiful song. But at that time, I just found it the most revolting song. How could anybody be so idiotic that they don't have their own mind and they don't have their own, personality to figure out what was good for them? It was so horrible. I mean, and now I see that actually most of those, even the Sufi ones, are actually written for God.
And you're deeply in love, then you don't have an option anyway.
No. Even then it was just too much to do that.
You're just like, whatever you say. It
That's when you're fed
it
up,
lasts
no?
a week or so, 2 weeks at best. But in that mode, you're just like, जो तुमको वो पसंद वही बात करेंगे.
Maybe it's the other way for me. Because if you keep following what I say, then that means you're really dumb and I don't have to do with you. But
so that's correct. That's what the pain of at the tail of every pleasure is pain. First, we want somebody to listen.
Down.
If they start listening, you're like, you have no individuality of your own. You listen to everything I say. First, it's just like this is the nature of relationships. Why can't she be more like me or he be more like me? When they become like us, we're like, you're so boring, it's like being with myself only. Where's the excitement? Where's the joy? Where's the fun? Yeah? So unless we are stabilized in God, that's why the book of Ecclesiastes is very, very good. That Ecclesiastes by King Solomon is really good. Because it's Nietzsche and all these existential, Camus, all of them, in the first half. So just imagine they spent their whole life coming up with all this. If they just read the book of Ecclesiastes, I mean, I'm simplifying, of course, and generalizing, but more or less, like 90%, 99%. But then the second part of the book of Ecclesiastes, not like that in structure, but just the second message of it is that there is meaning, and it only comes from God. Okay? So relationships, everything in the world is full of meaning, but that meaning comes from God. It is meaningless as far as our ability to understand is concerned. But most people want to make meaning excluding God. Let's keep God out of the picture. One person at work, she told me, thankfully she wasn't talking about me, but she was maybe talking about politics or something. She's like, for God's sake, why do they get God into everything? That's it. For God's sake. So in the world it seems very sort of strange to make everything about God. But we must learn from the wisdom of others, their experiences. Here was a king who had a war chest which was developed for war, but the wars didn't happen. So he became the richest king ever, I mean, at least in those cultures. And he was the wisest because he had read everything, he had deeply studied the nature of life. And he said, it's all vapor. It's all vapor. I've looked at this as vapor, I've looked at that as vapor, I've had this as vapor. Apparently he had a lot of like wives and like kings in those days, thousands and thousands. So I've had pleasure, I've had money, I've had everything. It's all vapor till you turn to God, till you find meaning in your heart from God. I'm simplifying, I would encourage all of you to read it. It's very, very beautiful. That book of Job and book of Ecclesiastes, both very beautiful. Both are called the wisdom books. Yeah. So, very, very nice. And it's just like, if you read Ecclesiastes, you know what you're reminded of? The first chapter of Yoga Vasishtha, the dispassion of Ram. He's just like that. You know, same thing. Prince who has everything at a young age. It's like it's all vapor to me, it's all nothing. So, how to find that? Everybody is constantly searching for meaning. And then what happened with these philosophers is there's no meaning inherent, there's no God who's looking over us. You make your own meaning. That is the meaning of life. Is it? So, but it's not true, because when you come to this holiness, you know it is not human created. No? Like some things you can just tell that they're not worldly. Like he was saying, she was saying that it's not material. Is it? It's beyond material. What I find in my heart is beyond material. What is that beyond material? And once you get a taste of that, is it? Then no material taste actually can compare. And it's not just about the taste, it's about the love, about the insight, about it just seems like a true life. So we have to learn from the wisdom of everyone else. The wise ones learn from the experiences of others.
What would we have done? They hadn't shown us how blind we were. You know, like turn the whole thing upside down. I mean, it's like wearing the wrong side of the glove and actually thinking that you're loving and obeying God. That was even a bigger fraud. Exactly. I mean, at least if you said you're the atheist, you're fine.
Doing the serpent's voice and saying we are following God's will, that's the biggest trick of the serpent. So if we cannot say that we live today in God's will every moment, and hopefully we are not fooling ourselves, then we have work to do. We are a work in progress. Okay. Arvind's question got over? Is it gone? If it's gone, it's okay.
Sometimes there's this fork in the road.
Is this 4-year-old?
Fork in the road in terms of conduct. So many, just some daily examples.
Of course.
And, I just, so for instance, a friend invites you to an evening and it's not like you're particularly excited about what's happening because, maybe you would just prefer to be with yourself, but then somebody is a friend and there's some emotional
Correct.
connect, and you're just going for the sake of, brotherhood and friendship and, things like that, right? Now, and so sometimes these things, also pull you out of what you may normally be doing.
Yes.
So, and just as an extension of that, on Monday I didn't come, physically for satsang because somebody was organizing an event and it was close to me and they requested me and I said, okay, I would rather have come, but, now I'm kind of, so I didn't know the situations, I don't know how to particularly act, right? And then sometimes when I'm in situations where I would not necessarily want to be, but I'll still, try to stay in the presence or, silently chant or something, right? So I'm not losing the connection. But I'm not really clear because in all cases I could have just said no, right? I could have said no, but then what would then happen is my life would become almost, exclusively just being in satsang and meditating. I can just turn off everything, right? I can, you can not take calls, you can not pursue, thoughts that come to you, which may, carry a certain resonance of joy, but you can still say, hey, that will inevitably take me down a road where it'll get worldly again. And, is it a trick? Is it a mental trick? It sounds, maybe even like a spiritual action, virtuous action, but maybe it's a trick. And I've tried asking, and I do sort of surrender, and I say internally that I know the light is real and everything is an appearance in it. So, everything here is yours, all appearances belong to you. You can put the thoughts as you wish. You can make the appearances dance to your mood.
Yeah.
It's, it's just all your action and your will, right? So I surrender that, but again, I'm still a little stuck, Father. I know you say just go internally and ask, but I'm not hearing, I don't know if I don't know what it is. I don't hear a voice telling me something, or I don't know what to do here. I'm not finding a spiritual guide that's holding me by the hand and saying, do this or do that. That's just not happening for me.
Well, I would say it's very much happening for you. It is not possible for you to be so consistently in satsang unless that was happening. We don't find any tangible evidence of that sometimes, so we may feel like it's not happening, but and I'll come more directly at your question also, but every tiniest bit of spiritual insight that we have is only because our Atma within the spirit is making us spiritual. Without spirit's endeavor in our heart, spirit working in our heart, we cannot grasp the A of spirituality. We can't start the endeavor at all. You see, the Atma is definitely guiding you. So that is for sure. When it comes to these day-to-day decisions, as you said, that in a way it feels like there are two modes. Either I am the driver of the car or the car is driverless. You see, and if the car is driverless, then it will go into some ditch, or my friends will hate me, and or I'll become a social outcast and a recluse. All of those fears are there. But there can be a long period of time where we feel like I don't feel guided. You see? In fact, there's a whole movie about this topic called Silence, where these ones who wanted to spread Christianity went to Japan, and then they got stuck in some very terrible situation, and they kept praying for God, and they were just dealing with the fact that God seemed to be silent. You see, of course, and these were not day-to-day situations. These were life and death situations where they just had to, it's a story of faith, how they had to be faithful in spite of silence. You see? And if you are faithful, then we'll find ways. If you're patient, courageous, faithful, then we'll find the guidance in some form or the other. Just that, even that compass which I've been talking about, the heart compass, you can get a sense of whether the light is brightening up, whether your insides are drying up or they're lightening up. See what happens when you inquire for an hour? Something happens. No? What happens when you do the ADS in the morning? Something happens. So when that something starts to dim, then you know that you're going away in the wrong direction. When you remain like that, and I'm not saying from a place that I always remain like that, it's work for me also. So, but this is the endeavor, this is the work in progress in my life, that it starts to feel more and more restless when his light is not apparent to me. And sometimes it's like you can spot that you're walking in the wrong direction, so you just retreat back in spite of your pride and in spite of, so you could be like just starting an argument with your wife and the light starts to dim. The light starts to dim, so you're like, oh, I'm so sorry, I'm very sorry, so you retreat like that. And it has never worked the other way. Although we may want that as an excuse, it's never worked the other side. Other way in the sense that it's never said, no, be more aggressive. So my heart is not guiding me like that so far at least. So Krishna has not ever told this Arjuna to pick up the weapon, never told him like that. So that is a simple example. But there are many times where you just find yourself disconnected. You don't know how you got there, you just got into some Maya loop and you're just in some. You see? The instant you notice, then you have to put down your pride and what you want and your will and everything and just return. Like a silly innocent child who's found himself, in like a cat who's stuck on the tree. So he just like climbed the tree. And this seems to happen in America a lot because growing up watching American TV shows, there are always cats stuck on trees. It never happens in India, I don't know why. But, and they call the fire department. Here you call the fire department saying the cat is stuck on the tree. Shut up. We're on a chai break right now, don't disturb us. So anyway, so the point was that you find yourself over there, then you can't try to be a lion and all of that, say I'll make this work and this is the right move and God only wants this. We have all these reasoning, but we keep all that aside and we return. Yes, we plead with God, we say, I've been foolish and I've fallen into this mind trick. And whether we just return to just being empty, making all the space for God, clearing up the road for God, whether we inquire and say, who am I that has gotten into this idea, or we just pray. The important thing is to remove the focus from the me and to turn it towards the Atma within. So that those are the two modes, isn't it? Either it's you're slowly getting into the mind trap, or you're already there, you don't realize how you got there. But the important thing is to be humble and retreat. The retreat seems like it needs humility. Because nobody wants to retreat. Once you've taken a few moves, you just like, I'm going to fight it out. I'm going to prove to myself first that I'm right, and then prove to everyone that I'm right. That never gets us anywhere. If we look back, if we are mature enough to look back at our life, we see that no good has ever come out of that. You see, that momentary feeling of feeling good, you see, that I'm so right. You see, that thing comes like that, like Ravan. In a few minutes, we are back to being the small cat meowing, so never get into those modes. So did that help? It comes, you see, and God knows how much to feed us when. Well, for all of us, it's a test of faith.
But is there any situation which warrants getting angry or upset? So for instance, let's say if you're meditating, right, and somebody comes and plays loud music, even though you've told them, 100 times before that, in this 30 minutes in the day I need solitude, right? Is that sort of something, I'm just giving a practical example, is something like that, reason enough to get upset afterwards? If
your heart is guiding you to that, that's why I took the Krishna and Arjuna thing. But my Krishna never told me to become Arjuna. My Krishna in my heart has never told me to become Arjuna and pick up the weapon and fight.
Even though you were trying to do something to get closer to God, and this is taking you away, but then you should still be humble and say, thank you.
So, no, but that's also I know, but I'm saying that is also like a template. But I'm saying that your heart can find ways to get the point across without aggression, without anger. Maybe those points work. But even this, maybe your heart will guide you to Arjuna mode. I don't know, but we must not rush into that.
Being firm is not dangerous.
Whatever it is, be from the heart. Be guided by God.
What if a dog was barking and you couldn't do anything? It's a stray dog. So what do you do? When you still meditate, no, you say after the dog doesn't show.
I can
Yeah,
throw
I
a
had
stone.
that experience. What do you do?
The stone you can throw.
No, but it's a wedding is going on outside and that music won't stop.
No, I will actually listen to this. I have, because I have a lot of cats in the house.
Yeah.
So when I'm doing meditation, somehow it coincides with
The cat goes to YouTube.
cat fight. For some reason. But then I don't want them to hurt each other, so then I will stop and yell at that.
So, but you said that you made it clear to the cats that you need the. You said you made it clear that this half an hour
I don't want them to hurt each other.
is deflecting it to the cats.
I don't literally want them to, deflect it happen to me as well. I could just say, okay, this is, let them do what they want, right?
But that's again what I'm saying is that these opposites are in the head. I think that we must just go with the heart. We don't know, what solutions come from there or what continuations of seeming problems come from there. We must not also approach it like some cheat code to life. That I just go over there and God is just available like a genie. So I rub the lamp and He just sorts out everything for me. But the promise for me is that whatever unfolds with His guidance when He moves us is what is needed, is the most auspicious for us.
I was using the cheat code, like one cheat code that I had adopted maybe a year when I came with a thought storm of how I behaved with my son, like as a angry or aggressive parent, and then that was one reset. But the cheat code that I've been using is how would father behave if his son was doing the same thing. And 99% of the time it's been a great cheat code. But his handwriting is or was terrible 6 months ago. And as a consequence of that, the structure of thinking, everything gets into a mess, and so he, doesn't do as well with the effort he's put in. I kept going the father cheat code way.
Have you seen father's handwriting?
Huh? No, I haven't.
It's the worst.
No, I haven't.
It's the worst.
But
That's why my structure of thinking is so bad. I don't think only.
I'll finish my story when you become obvious. Yeah. So I for 3 months I kept like being very polite, like you can write better. This is the way to write. I would give him demo after demo, and he would keep writing like shit. Then one day just something happened and I became harsh, and I said, I know you can write way better than this. This is what you're going to do from tomorrow morning. And he's 15. And he started doing it, and within 3 weeks his handwriting got amazing. And consequently, he had enough space in the question papers to answer his questions, everything. He could think clearly, and his grades started reflecting in that. But for the first time, when I was harsh, next day I didn't feel that I did something. There was no guilt. traditionally I've been harrowed by that if I was harsh, and that's why I would come with those reports. But like you also said, right, with your pup right now, that it's sometimes the guidance just comes as a parent. I have to.
Absolutely.
And not to beat myself about it if it's coming from a place of love. And I knew I was using a cheat code, but it was comforting to go through that experience that, once in a while it may come. And if it comes, it comes. So that was really helpful to break free from that cheat code and to trust the intuitive guidance. And I've had it in my own childhood, like my parents have been harsh maybe 3-4 times, and I actually thank them for those 3-4 times. Or my school teacher, I remember them making me write A plus B the whole square 1,000 times. After that, every formula is like buried in my head.
In all of this, we just have to be careful of following God's will. Because many times there's a tendency to presume the two sides. Like and that's okay at some level, like that's classical again, what would Jesus do? Or what would Ram do? Or Krishna do? And we just presume that. Because that helps in a lot of situations. But now we must come to a point where it's not speculative. It is guided. And we must learn to have that faith that He will guide us in one way or the other. And as we become more and more sensitive, you see that there's no even truly not even patience is needed, because He is so merciful. We're just learning how to read His ways more clearly. So we just be a little careful of this compartment in our head which says this is the spiritual way, this is the worldly way, and operating between those two. Just allow it to come. Can seem very difficult, especially with children, with loved ones. It can seem very difficult, because we're very scared of their lives being messed up in some way, of being good parents, of them not resenting us. All of these fears can be there. But if you learn to follow your heart, you see that it's auspicious. It's looking so tall because I'm sitting on the floor now. I know he's even tall otherwise, but especially. Okay, so this one. So the question about avoiding and hiding, that is taken care of by just not getting into any of these categories, moment to moment, allowing Him to move us, allowing Him to guide us. It's become Kalin and Karumai. Is that so that I get more motivated to call on you?
No, Father, I'm just Kalin's assistant today. He wanted to talk to you, but then he didn't have patience to listen, so he left. And
I don't blame
he
him.
asked.
I won't have come to Satsang at all anyway.
So he's here now.
Hello.
Hello.
No idea.
Hello.
What's up?
It's good. I'm feeling a bit sick.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
But I'm recovering quickly.
Okay, good. Anna is there.
Anna is there. She's very happy.
Very, very. Hello.
Say hello. Hello. Yeah.
Oh yeah, she's very happy. It's true.
Want to share something with Father?
I just wanted to. I raised the hand to ask for a blessing to recover quickly. That's what.
To go to the camp tomorrow.
Full blessing.
Thank you.
Welcome. Sound is very low today. Am I in the right mind?
Father, can I share something?
Yes, 1 second, my dear. Let me just look at the sound. Maybe I'm just speaking more softly. Now is it louder or no? That's fine. Yes, please. Go ahead.
You know, from our last discussion, I thought, oh, today I'm coming to Satsang and I'm just going to be so present and so much in the heart, you know? And as Satsang was approaching, even before, like I could feel the sleepiness and all this energy playing, and Satsang started, and it actually took a bit of, it took an accident when Colleen went to the, shall I give you some space?
No, no, no. I can multitask this much. I know men are very bad at multitasking, but this much is.
An accident, or I unmuted myself accidentally, and then I interrupted you because I saw your attention went to the screen and all this. Then I became present. And I actually realized it's like it's very much by His grace, you know, if I'm 5%, 50%, or 80%, or
Yeah.
whatever percentage it is, it's not my.
That's not a. Is that a cop out?
No, it's not like that. It's not that I'm not trying, but it's like I'm not, you know, my personality is not weak or anything like that. Like when I want something, I can do it. Yeah. But sometimes, like with this today, was just a very clear example that it's not, he's going to give you so much challenge to
The
show
thing is
you
that
that you need to rely on him fully, you know?
with a strong personality, it's a good experiment to see whether a strong personality can want a transcending of itself and do it.
No, it's just.
You see, so remember that an expectation of grace must go with our complete payment of the cost of discipleship. And the cost of discipleship to the mind is everything. In reality is nothing. So unless somewhere we are feeling like we've offered everything at our disposal, we must not even talk about grace.
Yeah.
So full. Everything that we have, every layer of our existence that we otherwise feel we control, must be
I take this as your blessing because I
It is my blessing and my guidance, my pointing and my blessing. So, and this is the, again, I'm not speaking from a place of 100% or something like that. This is exactly what the project here is as well. Every moment use that as an opportunity to be with God rather than to serve the me.
Someone, Cass, a sister that was following you, she wrote to me today. She gave up Satsang a while ago, and she actually wrote to me that she saw me on screen and you were saying like how much of your time you choose God or you serve me. And yeah.
I didn't get the name. Who are you talking about?
There is this sister that dropped Satsang about 2 years ago.
Many sisters like that. You can send me a name later if you want.
Yeah.
And then was she touched by that? Was she touched and she wanted to just be with God more?
I was touched by the fact that she actually mentioned she found the YouTube Satsang and she saw me on screen and this was your pointing and
Very good.
Thank you so much for this blessing and blessed life. And for this opportunity to be with you in Guruji and Sangha.
Thank you.
Thank God. And I'm very grateful also that Kalini is keen to come on screen with you.
Very good. Very good.
Thank you.
Let's go to Samia.
Hi, Father.
Hello, my dear. Good.
Thank you.
Welcome, my child. Welcome.
All good, Father.
That I can tell. That I can tell by looking at you. I can tell by looking at you. That's all good.
Yeah, always. It's always good. Just recently, I don't know. Sometimes I just too much reaction is here. Like the fear of being separated from God's light, not even being separated, but fear of being separated just makes me incredibly, I don't know, like nervous and like if I like even the idea of it, I cannot bear, Father. Because of this, just too much reaction, and it is not even the truth, but maybe it's a good thing, maybe it's just kind of inner prayer, like maybe it's itself a prayer, I don't know, but yeah. And this is the reason also I just wanted to come up now, like there is nothing, but of course my body is little tired, but it's okay, of course it's okay, but just again, fear comes up. What if I cannot have a rest and I can be separated from God's light? Like this kind of thing. That's why I just wanted to throw myself to you. Yeah. But despite of this, just no separation at all.
Very good. Very good. Some of it is very natural, what you're saying, that in one of the first spiritual sanghas that I was part of, I received a name, a mantra to chant. In that sangha, I received a mantra to chant. And throughout that process of receiving the mantra, I was just scared that I'm going to forget it. And it was the simplest mantra, and there was no chance I would ever forget it, but there was just this fear that I'm going to leave this room and soon I'm going to forget it. So sometimes things seem so precious to us in our heart that we are scared that we should not lose this. We may forget about it. You see? So
Yeah, but it seems like it comes out of this love, and yeah, it itself, it's like a prayer. So
the preciousness of it is so much that we sometimes have this concern that we may leave it. You see? My worry would be that if you're saying that, what's the point? You know, this
not at
God's
all,
life.
Father.
Then
No.
that would be worrisome for me. But if you're saying that I'm scared about losing it, it's all right. As long as it's not just making you avoid it by making you fearful of losing it. But I don't see from your face, I can tell it's not that. Yeah.
I could not fully understand what you said, but yeah. I think there's so much to say and so much things to be said, but because I'm a little tired, I don't want to waste them for now. Yeah. Yes. Hope
As long
to
as you
talk
have this, you have a bit of a satsang grin. You know what a satsang grin is? You just like, you're smiling in satsang because your heart is open and it's alive and it percolates through the body, you know, in this way that there's a light within you and your face naturally has a smile on it because of that. So if you see, if some of you, please don't see them, but I'm just reminding you that when I started sharing satsang, I would just come into the room and I would have this, so like this satsang grin on, and then somebody would ask a question, I would be like, so seriously, who are you? And then I would return to that satsang grin like that. So, and it wasn't that I was doing it, it just happens, you know, that something and my heart was opening up so deeply that it was percolating through everything in life and including this body. So when that is, those byproducts, those overflow, that spillover of love is visible, then I'm not worried about any of that.
Still, I feel like I need to just move my body. Maybe nature, it really helps me recently. Like, I don't know, Father. Of course, it's like, it's the God just who gives the healing through nature also. Nature has no power if does not, God allows me to be healed. Like last time, somehow, when I was walking in nature, it's so magical, Father. I just found a page, like a page, religious, and it was written on this, even natural power, because I was going to nature only to be rejuvenated, and just one page, Father, in the just middle of the nature, and it was written, even natural power has nothing, like if God does not allow you that healing. I was like, oh my God. And then I pray, please, through in nature, give me this healing. Like, it's amazing. So yeah, that's why I just wanted to throw myself to you.
That's very, very important. I'm so glad you said it. I don't know if I've said it in broadcast before, but very often I've said that we must not obsess too much about nature, natural. We must make it God, because everything that is healing, everything that is joyful, everything that makes us feel rested and rejuvenated is because of God alone. All the healing, and the same thing for these practices of healing and all of that. We must not do them without first deep gratitude to God and love for God. So many times I advise people here when they're doing some of these things just for healing and things, which is fine, there's no trouble with that, but we must never forget that the power to heal, the power to create, heal, destroy, rejuvenate, everything belongs to God alone. It's only an expression of His power. So all gratitude, all praise, all love for all of this is also truly at His feet.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you, Father. Thanks to God for everything.
Thank you.
For everything.